civilians, including 24 Canadians, were taken from us far too soon. Pourtant, à travers toute l'horreur de cette journée, des héros ont émergé et on a pu voir le meilleur de l'humanité. À New York et à Arlington, des pompiers et des secouristes courageux ont couru vers le danger alors que les civils, eux, fuyaient. Dans les airs au-dessus de Shanksville, les passagers de vol 93 ont sacrifié leur vie pour en sauver d'autres. Et ici à Gander, alors que l'espace aérien nord-américain se fermait, les portes des maisons s'ouvraient. At that time, Gander was home to over 10,000 people, and over the course of that day, the people of Gander welcomed more than 38 flights. 68 flights, yeah, that's what I was just saying. It says 38, it's 68. Yeah, exactly, and 6,000 passengers, and Pat helped call them in on that day. Overnight, in effect, the town's population almost doubled. You didn't say no. You didn't complain that you didn't have the resources to help. You showed friendship to people who were fearful, and in crisis, you showed character. When people needed help, you gave it, no questions asked, no expectations attached. It was the right thing to do, the Canadian thing to do, and you did it, and you made us proud. The story of that day soon became legend, immortalized in the Canadian-made Broadway hit musical Come From Away. And it became yet another example of the unbreakable bond between the Canadian and American people. Because when Americans are in need, Canadians have always shown up. Whether during the Iranian hostage crisis, or a few months ago with the California wildfires, or in Afghanistan, where we lost 158 Canadian Armed Forces members and 7 civilians. We showed up. Canada showed up for America. And that was not just in times of calm when it's easy, but in times of crisis when it's hard. Not just when it's convenient, but when it's necessary. We've always been by American side. Non seulement quand c'est calme, mais en temps de crise. Non seulement quand c'est facile, mais dans les moments difficiles. Non seulement quand c'est pratique, mais aussi quand c'est nécessaire. Nous avons toujours été là pour les Américains. Canada and the United States are like brothers. And I know something about having brothers. I have 2. We don't always see eye to eye, but when push comes to shove, we're there for each other. Over countless decades, we found a way in true Canadian fashion to disagree agreeably, to choose diplomacy over demagoguery, to put our shared values over our selfish desires. Why? Well, as President Reagan said in Quebec City almost 40 years ago to this day, and I quote, "We're more than friends and neighbors and allies, we are kin, who have together built the most productive relationship between any 2 countries in the world." But that's changed. And it wasn't us that did the changing. Unfortunately, President Trump's actions have put that kinship under greater strain today than at any time in our storied history. Ces tarifs, ce qu'on bâtit, ce qu'on vend, ce qu'il nous faut pour mettre la nourriture sur la table et une tour au-dessus de nos têtes. C'est une attaque contre notre économie, notre souveraineté et contre notre mode de vie. President Trump wants to break us so America can own us. And we will not let that happen. Now, we are over the shock of the betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons. We have to look out for ourselves, and we have to look out for each other, just like you did in Gander all those years ago. And that's what my government is doing during this crisis. We're acting to protect workers by using every dollar that we collect from retaliatory tariffs to go to workers. I announced that earlier this week. Because we're stronger when we're together. Because we're all in this together, healthcare in Canada is a right, not a big business. Because we're all in this together, our government created $10 a day childcare for hardworking families. I had the honor of meeting with Beulah and Diane earlier, Beulah Cooper and Diane Davis earlier, and Diane pointed out how her family and her grandson benefit from that. In fact, the average family in this great province saves about $6,000 because of that program. Because we're all in this together, we created the Canadian Dental Care Plan. Over 3 million Canadians have already signed up. Over 1.8 million Canadians have already been treated. The first patient treated right here in Gander by Dr. Pat Redmond. This past Friday, we expanded coverage of that program to over 5 million more Canadians who need it. We're acting by putting more money in Canadians' pockets through a middle-class tax cut that I announced yesterday, a tax cut that will save a two-income family up to $825 a year. We can't afford to let anyone, not American politicians or Canadian politicians, make us angry or divided. As Diane said to me earlier, we can't let them change us. They need to be more like us. President Trump's plan is to divide and conquer. Pierre Poilievre's plan is to divide and be conquered. And his negative slogans aren't solutions. His anger isn't action. His division isn't strength. We know that negativity won't win a trade war. Negativity won't pay the rent or the mortgage. Negativity won't bring down the price of groceries. Negativity won't make Canada strong. Nous avons vu où la négativité et la division ont mené les États-Unis. Nous sommes plus forts quand nous sommes unis. Les Américains, ils vont s'affaiblir parce qu'ils ne le sont plus. Alors, unissons-nous en cette période de crise. We can see where this leads. America is divided, and that is making them weaker. But as we remember here in Gander, that's not our nature. There's a great line from Come From Away when the mayor, Claude, says, "Tonight we honor what was lost, but we also commemorate what was found." In this crisis, caused by the U.S. President and those who are enabling him, we lament a friendship lost, or at least a friendship strained. But we celebrate the Canadian strength we have reclaimed. And while in Gander, Canadians did extraordinary things for Americans when they needed it, now we need to do extraordinary things for ourselves. We will have to do things that we haven't imagined before at speeds we didn't think possible. And that means building millions of homes, building Canada into an energy superpower, building new trade corridors with reliable trading partners. It means a government spending less so Canada can invest more. It means making big polluters pay instead of hardworking Canadians, and creating one Canadian economy instead of 13. Yet, my opponent, Pierre Poilievre, doesn't get this. He doesn't understand what's needed in a crisis. He doesn't understand that leaderships Canadians want in their time of need. In fact, his language sounds a bit familiar. As Daniel Smith has said, Pierre Poilievre is in sync with Donald Trump. Au cours des derniers mois, les Canadiens et les Canadiennes se sont unis comme jamais auparavant et se sont ralliés à ce qui nous définit. Notre magnifique drapeau à feu d'arabe, notre politesse, mais notre esprit combatif. et notre grande fierté d'être les meilleurs au monde dans le sport, comme le hockey et évidemment le football après le match hier soir. Bien que tout cela me rende fier d'être Canadien, rien ne nous définit mieux que ce que la ville de Gander a fait sans qu'on le lui demande. Pour les États-Unis et pour le monde entier, il y a toutes ces années. What Gander did when the world was shaken is the country we know and love. It's the country that's given me everything, my family, my education, my values. It's the country that I'm fighting for each and every day. And if you give the Liberal Party your vote, it's the country I will fight for the next 4 years as your Prime Minister. It's the country that together we will build Canada strong. Thank you. Merci.
Prime Minister, we'll now begin the question period. We'll take 20 minutes of questions with a couple minutes for local media at the very end. Première question, first question.
Oui, bonjour, M. Carney.
Bonjour.
Laurence Martin de Radio-Canada. Vous avez annoncé des nouvelles dépenses, une baisse d'impôts de 6 milliards de dollars. Je comprends que vous voulez rendre la fonction publique plus efficace, mais il y a beaucoup de gens qui disent que ça ne sera pas assez pour atteindre l'équilibre budgétaire. Où est-ce que vous coupez, M. Carney?
Merci pour votre question. Premièrement, il faut changer la nature du gouvernement. Puis-je répondre? J'ai beaucoup d'expérience au ministère des Finances. Et le problème s'accumule avec des programmes de dépenses qui ne mettent pas l'accent sur les résultats. Alors, il faut changer la méthode, la manière de gouverner.
Mais vous nous avez expliqué tout ça, M. Carney, hier. Ce qu'on veut savoir, c'est si votre plan implique des compressions. Est-ce qu'il va y avoir des coupes? Oui ou non?
Mon plan va changer le rythme, le taux de croissance des dépenses. Le taux de croissance des dépenses depuis une décennie est à peu près 9% année par année. Alors, il faut réduire le taux de croissance des dépenses, il faut mettre l'accent sur les résultats, il faut intégrer la technologie au sein du gouvernement et il faut faire une revue des programmes des dépenses, pas des transferts aux provinces, pas des transferts aux individus, pas des programmes comme les garderies, pas des programmes comme l'assurance médicale.
Mais donnez-moi un exemple de ce qui pourrait être coupé.
Non, c'est un changement de méthode de gestion. C'est un changement de comment on gère.
Donc, il n'y aura pas de compression?
Il y a une augmentation de productivité. Ça, c'est différent. C'est différent, madame.
Est-ce que vous allez avoir une plateforme chiffrée?
Oui. Pas comme les conservateurs. Mais il faut réfléchir sur l'impact des changements du Parti conservateur. Parce M. Poilievre a dit, c'est dollar pour dollar des réductions des dépenses pour chaque initiative. Alors, in English...
On the less spending.
En anglais? Okay. Look, the exchange, to summarize it, was 3 things. One is it's changing the speed with which spending grows. It has been growing at 9% per annum. You slow the rate of spending growth. The needs of the country grow, the economy grows, you slow the rate of the spending grows. That changes the fiscal arithmetic. Trust me, I've been in the center of these things over the years. Secondly, how do you do that? You improve the productivity by focusing on results, by integrating technology, by reviewing programs to make sure that they are best value for money and having an impact. You do not, and we're absolutely clear, we are not changing the transfers to the provinces. We are not changing transfers to individuals. We are proud, and this is a huge difference between us and the Conservatives, we are proud of the programs that we have put in place. $10 a day child care, I just referenced it and the importance in this province. Dental care, millions of Canadians already accessing it. Pierre Poilievre pretends that nobody's ever done. He doesn't see these people. He doesn't care about these people. We're proud of the l'assurance médicale, pharmacare that's put in place. So all of that stays. Now, if you look at what the Conservatives say, dollar for dollar cut, dollar for dollar cut. So if you take their tax announcement today, and you take what Mr. Poilievre said, no more child care, no more pharmacare, no more dental care, and even by cutting all of those programs, which he has committed to cut, he can't pay for what he announced today. It's a different view of the world. Our view is we're all in this together. It's the spirit of Gander applied to Canada. His view is it's everyone for themselves. It's the spirit of Donald Trump that he's trying to apply to Canada.
Good morning, sir. Ryan Tumulty, Toronto Star. Mr. Poilievre and you both unveiled middle-class tax cuts yesterday. He described income tax as the fine you need to pay for working hard. His tax cut is larger than yours. I'm wondering what you make of it, if you considered it a deeper cut than the one you offered yesterday.
I think so. Thanks for the question. It's a fundamental difference in our approach. We have a balanced approach. He has a simple approach. I recall that Mr. Poilievre, when COVID began, his solution was, let's have a tax cut. His response with the tariff war and the revenue that the government is collecting from the retaliatory tariffs, he said, I'm going to use that to cut taxes. We say we're going to use that to protect workers who are directly affected by, and that's what we've done. That's what we've done with the changes we announced over the last week. He said, and now he's backed it up with an initiative, that he will eliminate, not just cut, eliminate child care, eliminate dental care, eliminate pharmacare. He still doesn't have enough to pay. He's going to eliminate foreign aid while he's at it. He's eliminating the Housing Accelerating Fund, so he's eliminating affordable housing. And even with all that, he's getting this number. It's a everyone for themselves approach versus we're all in it together. We have a balanced approach. Yes, we're focused on affordability. Yes, we want Canadians to have more money in their pockets. That's why we have a middle-class tax cut. But at the same time, we have these supports for the most vulnerable in our society, for those who can't afford dental care. We're talking millions and millions of Canadians in that case, millions and millions of Canadians using child care, so that both parents can go to work and be full parts of society. I can go on, but I'm going to give you your follow-up.
During the Liberal leadership race, you said that your middle-class tax cut would offset the loss of carbon rebates. The cut you offered is up to $825. The rebates were as high as $1,800 for a family in Alberta. I'm just wondering how you square that math.
We do square the math. We have squared the math. A couple of things. One is you look at where the rebate is today. You net the. Well, I'm going to look at the camera because you moved behind it, but I can't look you in the eye. But you square it with the carbon price. Carbon tax, so-called, that people are no longer paying because the rebate is obviously a gross amount. You have to net off the carbon tax that's being paid. So you have our tax cut today versus that rebate and the net of the carbon tax that has gone away. Plus, we have added the rebate, an extra quarter of the rebate that goes directly to people without the carbon tax. So for a median income, a family of earning $50,000, they come out ahead. And by the way, not something that Pierre Poilievre ever mentioned when he said axe the tax for 3 years. Never mentioned the rebate, didn't acknowledge the rebate, doesn't care about that affordability. Sorry, sir.
Hi, Steve Chase, Globe and Mail. Good morning. You say you're in talks with the Ethics Commissioner to set up a conflict of interest screen. Why not just sell your Brookfield shares and get rid of your unexercised options to avoid having to recuse yourself?
A couple of things. Thanks for the question, Steve. I've more than complied with all the rules, and I've more than complied with all the rules in advance, well in advance, months and months in advance of the requirements that were set up and that currently operate. By the way, requirements that Mr. Poilievre voted for when he was part of Mr. Harper's government. That's the first thing. The second is that I have divested all my assets, with the exception of cash and personal real estate, house and a cottage, into the blind trust, as is the route. It's a blind trust. I can't, what that means for those who don't follow this, I have no control over it anymore. It's a blind trust. I have no control. I cannot divest anything from it. I can't change that. The trustee manages it accordingly. I have set up screens for Brookfield and a company called Stripe that I used to be on the board of. I've set those screens up already well in advance. They'll be administered by the clerk of the Privy Council and the Chief of Staff. And as well, I have already filed months and months and months and months in advance with the Ethics Commissioner all the detail of when the divestitures happen, all the details of those assets. So again, I've complied with all the aspects. I've over-complied, in fact, well in advance, and this is the system we have, and I'm proud that we have it because it draws a sharp contrast with what other countries have. Sorry, Steve. Back to you.
As far as we know, you've not spoken to Donald Trump since you took office. Yeah. What effort precisely have you made to speak with him? And what is your government doing precisely to prepare for the April 2nd tariffs?
So with respect to the President, the President is waiting for the outcome of the election and see who has a strong mandate from Canadians, or who has a mandate from Canadians. Is it someone who is, to quote Daniel Smith, who's in sync with him? Or is it someone who's going to stand up for Canadians? I'm going to stand up for Canadians. I hope Canadians will back me, and then we'll have a discussion on the basis of as follows, and I'll come to your second part of your question in a moment. On the basis of the following. First, respect for our country as a sovereign nation. You would think, you would expect, given what these people have done and the long history, you would think respect and friendship for Canada. I'm just looking for respect at this point, acknowledgement of our sovereign nation. Secondly, given the scale of the U.S. trade actions against steel and aluminum, which is absolutely against the terms of CUSMA, given the series of other actions and the prospective actions on the 2nd of April, we need to have a comprehensive discussion with the Americans on the broader economic and, I would say, security partnership as well. So we'll wait for that. In terms of preparations, we have done the following. We have identified a list of goods and services, but mainly goods, 155 billion of which 30 have tariffs on. So there's an additional 125 that we could put retaliatory tariffs on, depending on what the Americans do, first thing. Secondly, we have put in place those protections for workers through a series of changes to the EI, including some that were announced on Friday, so that there's no waiting period, there's no severance period. You can have job sharing, all these aspects to provide. And those will be paid for by the tariff revenues, or we won't need all of them, but some of them through the tariff revenue. Again, Pierre Poilievre, simple solution, take the tariff revenues, pocket it, have a tax cut. Third thing we've done is we have put in place major supports for our largest companies and our smaller companies, smaller ones through BDC, EDC, farm credit as well, but liquidity support and ability to change the timing of tax payments for companies as well, all of which will supply financial support if necessary in the face of that. So we've done a number of things. I can go on, but I know we've got a lineup here. We've done a number of things to put us in a strong position. See, this is a fundamental mistake that the Americans are making. They think they will weaken us. They think that they can own us, quite frankly. That's what they think. We are going to get stronger. We are going to wait this out. They're going to come to the table, and we're going to negotiate a good deal for the Canadians. Thank you, Steve.
Sir, did you say that President Trump is waiting to talk to the Prime Minister of whoever wins this election?
Well, that's an interpretation, but I think it's a reasonable interpretation. I'm available for a call, but, you know, we're going to talk on our terms, as a sovereign country, not as what he pretends we are, and on a comprehensive deal.
En français, sur l'appel avec M. Trump. s'il vous plaît.
C'est l'appel. On a du temps? OK. En ce qui concerne, il faut avoir une discussion compréhensive avec lui. Il faut nous donne, il faut qu'il nous donne du respect comme un pays souverain. Et nous, ça suffit pour M. Trump. Il y a un autre aspect, plusieurs d'autres aspects de ma réponse, mais il faut continuer.
Bonjour, M. Carney.
Oui.
Émilie Bergeron, la presse canadienne. Vous continuez d'être questionné sur vos avoirs et vos possibles conflits d'intérêts. Les conservateurs continuent de vous attaquer là-dessus.
Ouais.
Est-ce que ça pourrait être une source de distraction à votre campagne et comment vous allez vous assurer que ça n'en soit pas une? Est-ce que vous pourriez justement aller au-delà, en faire encore plus?
Oui, merci pour votre question. J'ai déjà fait plus. Plus et plus rapidement que nécessaire. J'ai une fiducie déjà 6 mois avant les règles. J'ai déjà disposé tous mes actifs. Je n'ai qu'une maison, une chalet et puis de l'argent moi-même. Tout est pas disparu, mais c'est dans une fiducie. J'ai déjà mis un écran pour Brookfield et tout cela. Alors, c'est déjà fait. Et c'est pas une surprise. Le Parti conservateur n'a pas beaucoup d'idées. Il y a une idée de réduire les impôts, une autre idée de couper des programmes, et c'est tout. Et il y a des slogans. C'est tout. Hein.
Sur un autre sujet, y a-t-il un risque en faisant un virage à droite que ce soit considéré trop à droite pour que certains libéraux progressistes ou même des électeurs néo-démocrates soient découragés de voter pour vous et comment vous assurez un équilibre?
OK. Oui. Merci pour votre question. Alors, il faut avoir une économie forte. Ça, c'est nécessaire. C'est nécessaire pour les négociations avec les Américains, mais c'est nécessaire d'avoir des programmes de soins de santé, d'assurance médicale, des garderies et tout le filet social du Canada. Je suis un libéral. Pour les libéraux, il faut avoir les deux. Il faut avoir une économie forte. Et nous avons un plan, nous mettons en œuvre des initiatives afin d'avoir une économie forte, un Canada fort. Mais en même temps, il faut protéger les plus vulnérables dans notre société.
Donc, vous diriez que vous êtes au centre-droit, c'est ça?
Oui, au centre, oui.
On va prendre une dernière question
Merci.
de la délégation avant de faire la question locale, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour, M. Carney, c'est Fanny Olivier de Radio-Canada. Le chef conservateur Pierre Poilievre vous met au défi de participer au face-à-face de TVA. Est-ce que vous allez le faire?
Pourquoi pas?
Pourquoi pas?
Oui, pourquoi pas, oui. Il y aura des débats entre les chefs et tous les chefs, parce que si c'est TVA, c'est... Pour tous les débats, il faut avoir tous les chefs, alors M. Blanchet, puis M. Singh, Mme May, y compris M. Poilievre et moi-même, ouais.
Tout à l'heure, à ma collègue, vous avez dit qu'en ce moment, les dépenses croissent de 9 % par année au sein de l'appareil gouvernemental. À combien précisément voudriez-vous fixer le seuil de croissance des dépenses de l'appareil d'État?
Merci pour votre question, mais c'est trop simple. C'est une question de le taux de croissance de l'économie et d'autres dépenses. On ne peut pas... la gestion budgétaire, ce n'est pas aussi simple que ça. On dit, OK, c'est 1 point de pourcentage comme cela. Okay.
Et merci. Maintenant, pour les questions locales, s'il vous plaît. Local questions.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Patrick Porter, Radio-Canada Acadie. En 2019, la plateforme du Parti libéral du Canada a promis, le parti a promis de se pencher sur la construction de gros projets d'infrastructure. Vous parlez beaucoup d'infrastructures ces temps-ci. On a fait mention spécifiquement de la construction d'un tunnel entre Terre-Neuve et le Labrador. Vendredi dernier, M. Champagne, il parlait il disait aux provinces, suggérez-nous des projets d'intérêt national pour stimuler l'économie.
Ouais.
Est-ce qu'un gouvernement Carney va construire ce tunnel évoqué il y a 6 ans?
Je n'étais pas là en 2019, mais j'étais là vendredi dernier avec tous les premiers ministres. Nous avons eu une bonne discussion sur des projets de l'intérêt national et le fédéral a déjà, où nous sommes en train de mettre en œuvre des grands changements, comment nous soutenons des grands projets. Personne ne l'a mentionné, le tunnel, pendant cette réunion, mais on verra. C'est une question. Il faut travailler ensemble. Ça, c'est un des messages. Il faut travailler ensemble. Les provinces, le fédéral, les peuples autochtones, tout cela. Alors, on attend des grands projets. Il y a beaucoup à ce moment-là, mais comme j'ai dit, personne ne l'a mentionné vendredi dernier.
Hier soir, il y avait des pêcheurs assez frustrés devant le Palais des Congrès à Saint-Jean. Est-ce que ça vous inquiète? Ce sont des gens qui viennent de l'extérieur de la ville, où il y a déjà une présence conservatrice à Terre-Neuve. Est-ce que ça vous inquiète? Est-ce que ça va être plus sérieux en région?
Pas du tout. C'est absolument approprié que les gens sont là pour exprimer leur frustration avec la situation. Et un des messages importants, et il faut que le ministère de Pêcherie et d'Océan est plus proche des pêcheurs. D'accord.
Dernière question, last question, please.
The second question. Look, it's entirely right that the harvesters were there yesterday. The Minister of Fisheries met with some of their representatives last evening. I understand their frustrations. Given the situation in the water. Of course, they want a sustainable fishery, sustainable livelihoods. We're listening to their concerns, and what it underscores for me is, as I said last evening, the importance of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans being closer to the wharf, and it's something that I had already asked the Minister of Fisheries to look at as a potential structural change in the department. We did a lot in 9 days since I was sworn in, but those structural changes take longer, and if we're re-elected, we will be looking at that very closely. Thank you.
Hi, Troy Turner, local CBC. Of course, fishery is the lifeblood of rural Newfoundland, and the population of rural parts of this province, as I'm sure the rest of the country, are decreasing dramatically. What can be done, I guess, in terms of policy to give these people, I guess, a viability into the future and hope that their communities won't die?
Well, I think there's a lot that needs to be done, that's the first thing. So there's no one silver bullet. Part of the minimum is ensuring that the social services, the supports are there for these communities as well as they are developed in our cities, so that, for example, both parents can go to work, so there's access to childcare, so there's access to the health care that people deserve, all aspects of that health care. And then there's a fundamental issue, there's two sets of issues. There's issues around the lifeblood of these communities, as you just said, so a sustainable fishery. There are rural communities, your question referenced across the country, so sustainable farming and agricultural policies, including for supply management. And then as well, what are we doing? That's the question for us, and we'll be clear on this. What are we doing as our economy is changing to ensure that those changes benefit the rural economy? So one of the biggest changes over the next 10 years, it's not clear to me how much in a debate, TVA or wherever, this is going to come up. But how are we harnessing as a country, all parts of this country, and very much including the outports and rural Canada, harnessing artificial intelligence and what that brings to the benefit of people. And in order to do that, you can't just cut taxes and expect everything to happen. You have to work with the provinces and others to train people, bring them up, and move forward. Thank you.
This puts an end to our press conference. C'est ce qui m'a fait la conférence de presse. Thank you.
Can I take the one last question
Sure.
there? If I take the one last, just the look on your face made me, it was like, okay, sorry.
Just how I drew it up. Nick Mercer with the Telegraph of St. John's. The only question I really had was why was it important for you to sort of start things off in Newfoundland and Labrador?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Multiple reasons. One, the spirit, I'm going to start with today, the spirit of Gander and the spirit of this province and the people of the province is a model for our country. And I do believe that part of what this election is about is what kind of Canada are we building? Not just physically are we building, but as Canadians. And the best behaviors, modeling the best behaviors that we're there for each other during this time is important. And then, of course, at the same time, Newfoundland and Labrador, as elsewhere in the country, facing short-term challenges on affordability. What are we doing to address those head-on? And laid that out last night. But where are we going? Where are we going as a country? How do we take control of our destiny so we don't wake up and have to listen to the latest thing coming out of the White House? And we have a very clear plan to do that. I want to bring that to the people here and combine the two. A serious economic plan that's going to grow this economy, that's going to make us stronger as the Americans get weaker, that's going to put us in a better position, but it's going to grow jobs for everyone, with the spirit of Gander, since I'm here in Gander, with the spirit of Gander, the spirit of Canada. And that combination is incredibly powerful. So there was no better place to start this campaign, and I'm blessed, and my only regret is that the nature of these campaigns is that shortly I think I'm allowed to have lunch, which I'm looking forward to, and then shortly I'll be moving on from here. Thanks for your question. Thanks for coming. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.